Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome to GoServo. We're not just another advertising technology company. We're pioneers in customer lifecycle management solutions in Africa. Our services help brands forge meaningful connections, boost sales, expand their reach, and enhance revenue streams across Africa. Here's how we make a difference. With 20 years of expertise in mobile solutions, digital platforms, and data management, we lead the way in innovating brand-customer interactions. We deliver cutting-edge analytics and innovative tools for customer acquisition, optimizing your marketing ROI. Our solutions gather crucial insights on customer demographics, behaviors, and preferences to inform your strategies. We offer comprehensive customer management capabilities with robust analytics and real-time performance monitoring. Our tailored retention programs, including platforms like Text Connect and ServoPol, boost customer loyalty and advocacy. We support creators and developers in monetizing their assets sustainably with multi-platform distribution and optimized ad revenue returns. Our omni-channel strategies ensure your message reaches the right audience, wherever they are. Join us at GoServo, where innovation meets excellence in customer lifecycle management.
Discover a rich world of African cinema. From timeless classics to the best of Kumawood, Hausa, Dagbani, Nollywood and more. It's all waiting for you on mcine.tv. Getting started is simple and easy. No lengthy sign-up needed. Just visit mcine.tv. Enter your number, choose your payment option. Unlock a world of entertainment at your fingertips. mcine, your gateway to African movie magic. Visit mcine.tv or scan the QR code now.
Welcome back from the break, and today, we have a brand new book I co-authored with the Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Debra, who was my senior in Achimota School, by the way. And we came to outdoor a new book we've done on citizen experience, how to make citizens enjoy the countries they live in Africa. So just don't go anywhere. Welcome back from the break and enjoy the show as it goes on. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as we receive our special guest of honor, Her Excellency Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. And let's remain standing as we proudly sing the national anthem of the Republic of Ghana. kindly take your seats. Thank you very much, Inshira Tina Soprano, for that rousing rendition of our anthem. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Smartline Publishing, it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the official launch of Citizen Experience, a reset for superior public and civil service delivery. We are deeply honored by the presence of Her Excellency Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, our special guest of honor. We warmly welcome our chairperson, Mr. Ishmael Yamson. We acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Chief of Staff, Mr. Julius Deborah, and permit me to also acknowledge distinguished officials from the Office of the Vice President, Dr. Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, Policy Advisor Political to the Vice President, and the Honorable Alexander Segbefia, Chief of Staff to the Vice President. You're all most welcome to today's event. And to all other distinguished guests, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of public and private institutions, development partners, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have you here at ALISA. And to commit this program into the Lord's hands, I now invite from Smartline Publishing, Mr. Godfrey Asare.
Please, with all humility, let us rise and pray to our God. Our Lord and Jesus, we thank you. We thank you this morning for the gift of life, the grace you've bestowed on us. Indeed, this is the day that you've made unto us. We ought to rejoice and be glad. Father, we pray that may the purpose of today's gathering be achieved successfully. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
It's always refreshing when the person who prays surprises the MC with the brevity of the prayer, but it's still powerful. Thank you very much, Mr. Asare. It's now my pleasure to invite the publisher of today's book, the Chief Executive Officer of Smartline Publishing, to deliver the welcome address and introduce our chairperson for today's event. Let's welcome Mr. Elliot Ajari with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much, Kafi. Madam Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Ishmael Yamson, Chairman for this occasion, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, authors, friends of the book, good morning. Every nation occasionally arrives at a moment when it must pause, reflect, and ask difficult questions about how it serves its people. Ghana may well be approaching such a moment. The launch of this important book, Citizen Experience, a reset for superior public and civil service delivery, is part of that national conversation. Madam Vice President, your presence here this morning sends a powerful signal that citizen-centered service delivery matters at the highest levels of national leadership. We are honored to have you here with us. As publishers, we are deeply grateful to the authors for entrusting this important work in our hands. You have given Ghana something far more valuable than mere pages. You have given us a mirror in which to examine ourselves, a compass by which to navigate reform, and a roadmap towards better governance. This is not just another academic volume destined to sit quietly on library shelves. It is a practical, citizen-centered intervention that confronts the gaps in our public and civil service delivery with honesty and offers a clear pathway for meaningful reform. Our vision as publishers is very simple, yet it is audacious, I think. We want to place this book in the hands of those who can use it to make a difference. First, policymakers and those in the position of authority, because meaningful change always starts at the leadership level. Secondly, the men and women at the front line of service delivery, whose actions shape public trust in our institutions. And thirdly, citizens themselves, whose right it is not only to demand better services, but to participate actively in the building of a culture of accountability and excellence. Our collective task today goes beyond just launching a book. Our task is to ensure that this book is read, discussed openly, and most importantly, that its ideas are translated into action. Let it spark conversations in boardrooms, in classrooms, in ministry, town halls, and across the country. To everyone gathered here this morning, I welcome you warmly to this historic launch, and I want to invite you not merely to celebrate the publication, but to become a participant in the movement that it represents. And before I take my seat, I have the honor to perform another duty. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular privilege to introduce the chairman for this morning's launch, Dr. Ishmael Evans Yamson. Dr. Yamson is one of Ghana's most distinguished corporate leaders, an economist, a governance expert, and a respected public intellectual. I'm sure he was not expecting this from me. He has served with distinction at Unilever Ghana, where he served as Chief Executive Officer and also Chairman, leading one of Ghana's most remarkable corporate transformations. Beyond the boardroom, he has helped shape Ghana's private sector as President of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Ghana Employers Association, and the Ghana Enterprise Foundation, among many, many other national leadership roles. He's the founder of Ishmael Yamson and Associates, and he continues to champion ethical leadership, good governance, and national development. It is therefore fitting that a man whose life has been dedicated to this kind of responsible leadership, national transformation, and active citizenship should chair the launch of this book titled Citizenship Experience. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm round of applause as we invite and welcome our chair for this morning, Dr. Ishmael Evans Yamson. And he went to the same school as I, so I'm very proud of him.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Vice President, Honorable Chief of Staff, Professor Henson, or distinguished guests. When I got a call from the Chief of Staff to come and chair this function, I was far away in Philadelphia trying to help the Black Stars win the cup. But I promised him that I will revise my schedule and be here today. Because the topic is a topic that is dear to my heart. In the private sector, we call it customer experience. We changed from customer loyalty to customer experience. And so citizen experience is very appropriate. Because unless the citizen is happy with the experience they receive, they aren't going to vote for you. It is as simple as that. We have known for a very long time that something is profoundly wrong with the way this country, and indeed this continent, treats its own people. We have known it in the queues where citizens stand for hours, clutching documents that may or may not be accepted by officers who may or may not be present. We have known in the hospitals where patients died not because medicine was not available, but because the culture of the institution made the patient invisible. We have known it in the schools where ghost teachers collect salaries while the child at the back of the overcrowded classroom learned early and permanently that the state does not see them. We have known, and we have far too often looked away. This morning, with this book, Professor Hinson and Honorable Julius Deborah are making it considerably harder for any of us to keep doing so. And for that uncomfortable gift, I'm genuinely grateful. Let me be direct about the problem, because until we name it honestly, we cannot fix it. The problem lives in culture. And the culture operating system of far too many of our public institutions rewards self-protection over service delivery, hierarchy over accountability, and the appearance of work over its substance. Partly, yes, history has contributed to this. The colonial public service was designed not to serve Africans, but to administer them, to extract from them, and to control them. Its DNA was dominance, not dignity. But here is what Professor Hinson and the Chief of Staff, Honorable Deborah, and his co-author said with admirable directness, and what I want to amplify from this platform. We have had 70 years to dismantle that architecture. 70 years of our own government, our own ministers, our own chief directors. And we have generation after generation chosen to inherit the colonial institutions' habits along with its structures. That is not a colonial legacy. That is a personal and institutional choice. And it is upon us to change it. But history alone does not explain what we see. Something more troubling is at work. And I would name it directly. We have built it. We have tolerated. It is a culture of impunity. A culture in which those who hold public power understand at a bone deep level that the consequences of failure, of misconduct, and of outright theft from the public are vanishingly rare, reliably deferred, or simply negotiated. When consequences are negotiable, behavior is uncontrollable. When accountability is theatrical, performed for auditors and parliamentary committees, and then quietly set aside, the institutions learn that accountability is not real. And when accountability is not real, neither is excellence. This brings me to corruption. And I want to be precise, because in our public discourse, corruption has become a word we apply selectively, most readily to those on the other side of whatever divide currently organizes our loyalties. The public sector version is the most discussed. The ghost worker, the procurement officer who direct contracts to a spouse's company, the police officer who stops your vehicle not to enforce the law but to negotiate, the licensing officer who just moves applications not in order of merit but in proportion of informal compensation. These are real, they are pervasive, and they tell the citizens something devastating, that rights are not right. They are privileges available at a price. Professor Hinson and the Chief of Staff make a point I want to amplify. The genius of corruption in its most evolved institutional form is that it is largely shared its own name. We no longer call it bribery. We call it appreciation. We no longer call it extortion. We call it facilitation. The language is very warm. The activity is predatory. And the citizen who cannot pay, who insists naively on their right to be served, pays the true price in time, in dignity, sometimes in life itself. But I would be participating in a very selective accountability I am condemning if I stopped at the public sector. Because corruption in Ghana is not confined there, not by a very long distance. The private sector where I am has constructed a narrative of its own, of market discipline on competitive efficiency. And in certain quarters, some of that That narrative has validity. But there's also a substantial, well-capitalized private sector that has built its own model, not on competitive excellence, but on proximity to public resources, on winning contracts through relationships rather than competence, on bribing procurement officers and then recovering the cost of the bribe by delivering substandard goods and services, on constructing buildings with materials precisely calculated to collapse not immediately, but 15 years after the warranty expired and the developer is untraceable. This is not hyperbole. We know what the bridge collapses represent. We know what counterfeit medicines in our supply chain mean. We know what it means when banks holding the savings of ordinary citizens collapse because their directors lend deposits to themselves. And here is the point rarely made in polite company. Public sector corruption in the majority of its operational firms requires a private sector partner. The procurement officer who takes a bribe requires someone to pay it. Public and private sector corruption are not parallel phenomena. They are a single ecosystem. Any reform strategy that targets one without the other is not a reform strategy. It is a public relations exercise. Ghana is a deeply religious country. We teach our children to tell the truth, to work hard, to serve God and their families with honor. And then those same children grow up and enter our institutions and discover with remarkable speed that none of those values are the operative values of the organization they have joined. That what is actually rewarded is not integrity, but compliance with the informal system. That the person who speaks up is the person who does not get promoted. That the officer who refuses appreciation is the officer who next moves to the basement. The values we profess and the values we practice are in violent contradiction with each other. And the institution, in both its public and private forms, reliably transmits the practiced values, not the professed ones. This is the deepest crisis we face. Not the infrastructure gap, not the skills gap. Those are real but manageable. The values gap, the chasm between what we say we stand for and what we do when no one important is watching. That is the crisis that will determine whether Ghana achieves its potential in the coming decade or not. So what must change and how? Let me equally be direct about the prescription. First, change requires radical honesty of precisely the kind modeled in this book, the willingness to say publicly, without political hedging, what is actually wrong, a problem you cannot name, you cannot fix. Second, change requires systems that make accountability inescapable, not intermittent or selective, but structurally embedded. Performance measurement must be public. Consequences must be real. Rewards for excellence must be compelling enough to genuinely motivate. Sanctions for misconduct must be swift and certain enough to genuinely deter. Accountability as a public event cannot produce the transformation we need. Third, change requires a complete reimagining of the relationship between state and citizen, from one of patronage to one of service. The citizen is not a beneficiary of government benevolence. The citizen is the owner and funder of every public institution in this country. And finally, change requires leaders in public life and private life who have genuinely internalized that their legacy will not be measured by what they built for themselves, by what they built for people who had no choice but to depend on them. Leadership is a variable. It always has been. The institutions of this country can be transformed. The systems can be redesigned. The culture can be changed. But none of it happens without leaders willing to exercise that obligation even when it is inconvenient. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, I look around this room and I see people of considerable influence and considerable responsibility. Ministers of state and senior officials, business leaders and corporate executives, academics and researchers, civil society leaders. I want to leave you with one question that I intend to sit with long after this evening, this morning. The citizen that Professor Hinson and the Honorable Deborah described, the one waiting in the queue, who cannot access the service they are owed without paying for what is already their right, who deals with the state and feels invisible and powerless. The citizen is not a theoretical construct. They are millions of people. They are our people. What is our personal obligation to that citizen? Not our collective obligation. That is too easy to distribute until it belongs to no one. Our personal obligation, what will you do differently tomorrow, specifically because of what you have encountered this morning? The transformation of citizen experience in Ghana will not be delivered by a book, however excellent that book is. It will be built, decision by decision, interaction by interaction, by people in positions of responsibility who decided personally and irreversibly that the citizen deserves better and that they specifically are going to be part of delivering it. The citizens of this country are the audience of the story of the next decade that the next decade will tell. Let us give them a story worth inheriting. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Many thanks to our chairman, Dr. Ishmael Yamson, for that really inspiring and thought-provoking address. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker wears two important hats today. He's not only the Chief of Staff to the President of the Republic of Ghana, with decades of experience in governance, institutional reform, and public sector leadership, but he's also co-author of the book we're launching this morning alongside Professor Robert Hinson, drawing on both public service experience and practical leadership insight. He's helped shape a work that challenges us to rethink how citizens experience public service delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming the Honorable Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Deborah.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Ishmael Yamson, a man whose name has for many years stood for institutional excellence in our country. Her Excellency, the Vice President of our Republic, Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyeman, our special guest of honor. My co-author and friend, Professor Robert Hinson, whom I prefer to call Bob Hinson. Mr. Ismail Harry Yamson, distinguished ministers of state, senior public and civil servants, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. There are days in public life when one is invited to speak about policy, and there are other days when one is invited to speak about an idea. But this morning, I believe we have gathered here to speak about something deeper than both. We have gathered to speak about the meaning of government in the daily life of its ordinary citizen. That may sound simple, but I have spent enough years in government to know that the simple things are often the hardest to achieve. A citizen wakes up before dawn to join the queue. A mother travels from a village to a district office with a file in her hand. A young entrepreneur moves from one desk to another, asking only for a certificate that will allow him to begin his life. A pensioner, after serving this country for decades, waits patiently to be treated with the dignity he has already earned. In each of these moments, the citizen is not asking for a speech. The citizen is not asking for a slogan. The citizen is asking one quiet question. Does this country see me and values my worth? That question is at the heart of this book. Before I speak about the book itself, permit me to acknowledge the presence of Her Excellency, the Vice President, Madam Vice President. Your presence here means a great deal to us, not only because this subject sits at the center of the reset agenda, but because your own journey has reset the imagination of a nation. For the first time in our history, little girls across Ghana can look at the highest level of national leadership and see themselves there. They can say, without qualification and without apology, that if Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyeman can rise to this office, then their own dreams are not too large for this country. Madam Vice, you have opened a door, and long after politics of the day has passed, that door will remain open in the minds of many children and many who may never get a chance to meet you, but who will be braver because you served. Ladies and gentlemen, this book began, as many important things do, in a conversation that was not meant to have become a book. Some time ago, Professor Hinson and I were speaking about public service. It was not a formal meeting. There was no prepared agenda. It was one of those conversations where two people begin with a simple observation and then realize halfway through that they are touching something much important and larger. I said to him that after serving in government across different periods, and after having the privilege of serving as Chief of Staff in 2 administrations, I had become convinced of one thing above all others, that public service has only one true purpose. It is to improve the lives and well-being of our people. Everything else is secondary. The titles are secondary. The ceremonies are secondary. The motorcades, the fires, the meetings, the protocols, the memoranda, the speeches, the budget, and the policy documents, all of them matter only to the extent that they make life better, fairer, easier, safer, and more dignified of the Ghanaian. Professor Hinson listened carefully, as he always does. Then he asked me a question that stayed with me. He said, if that is what you believe, how do we make the machinery of the state behave the way you want every day? That was the question. Now, how do we inspire public servants for one afternoon? Not how we write another reform document. Not how we organize another workshop with banners and communiques. But how do we make the state behave every day as though the citizens matter? That conversation became the seed of the citizens' experience, a reset for superior public and civil service delivery. I entered this collaboration not as an academic, but as a practitioner with hands-on experience. Professor Hinson brought the rigor of scholarship, the discipline of frameworks, the experience of a man who has spent decades studying service, marketing, and institutional behavior. I brought the memory of cabinet rooms, the pressure of implementation, the frustration of good policies that sometimes fail at a point of delivery, and the stubborn belief that the Ghanaian state can be made to work better for its people. In the process of writing, we challenged each other. When I was tempted to soften the diagnosis because I know how difficult institutional change can be, Professor Hinson pressed on for honesty and that he wanted us to be as factual as possible. When a framework looked elegant on paper, I asked whether it could survive contact with the district office on a Monday morning. When we discussed leadership, I had to confront not an abstract concept, but responsibilities that I've carried myself. When we discussed the frontline officer, we have to ask whether we have always given that officer the tool, training, respect, and protection required to enable him serve well. I believe the book is stronger because of that tension. It is not written from a place of blame. It is written from a place of duty. We chose to open the chapters with real life scenarios because citizen experience is not an abstract theory. It is Kofi at the police clearance office. It is Emmanuel trying to register his business. It is a citizen in Wa trying to verify health insurance on a basic phone. It is a parent seeking a school placement. It is the trader at the port. It is the young graduate seeking a document. It is the widow trying to assess what is due her. These are not interruptions to the work of government. They are the work of government. One of the central arguments of the book is that citizens' experience is the new social contract. In a democracy, legitimacy is not secured only at the ballot box. It is renewed or weakened in the ordinary encounters between the citizens and the state. When a citizen is treated with fairness, clarity, speed, and dignity, trust will grow. And when a citizen is ignored, confused, delayed, or humiliated, trust weakens. And when this happens repeatedly across institutions and across years, people do not only lose confidence in an office, they begin to lose confidence in the promise of the government itself. That is why the distinction between customer experience and citizen experience matter. A customer can walk away, a citizen cannot. You may choose another shop, another bank, another network provider. But when you need a passport, a birth certificate, a police report, a permit, a license, or a public health service, you are dealing with the state. The state therefore carries a higher moral responsibility to serve you. This is why we argue that citizens' experience is not a customer service matter. It is a governance issue. It belongs to the same table as fiscal policy, security policy, and development planning. It must be measured. It must be led. It must be budgeted for. It must be reviewed. It must be demanded from the top and practiced at the front desk. The book introduces what we call the citizen experience failure circle. We develop it because too often, when citizens complain about poor service, the response is to blame an individual officer. Sometimes, indeed, there are officers who act wrongly and must be held accountable. But in many cases, good people are trapped inside bad system. A public servant cannot serve well if the process is broken. The technology is unreliable. The instructions are unclear. The supervision is weak. The incentives are wrong. And the cultural reward delay rather than delivery. If we only blame people, we miss the system. But if we understand the system, we can redesign it. That is why leadership is so central to this book. Institutions deliver what leaders prioritize. Two institutions may have similar budgets, similar constraints, yet produce very different experiences for citizens because of the choices their leaders make. A leader who measures responses time will get different results for than one who does not. A leader who visits the service floor will learn things that no report can fully capture. A leader who protects honest officers and disciplines bad conduct sends a message that everyone understands. Leadership is not speech. Leadership is what the institution learned to expect. We also propose 7 dimensions of citizen experience: accessibility, clarity, speed, dignity, fairness, consistency, and outcome. These are not decorative words, they are practical tests. Can the citizen reach the service? Does the citizen understand the process? How long does it take? Is the citizen treated with respect? Is the service fair? Is the experience consistent across offices and regions? And at the end of the process, does the citizen actually receive the outcome he or she came for? Every public institution should be able to score itself honestly against these 7 dimensions. If we cannot measure the experience, we cannot improve it. Another important conviction of the book is that the frontline officer is not at the bottom of the hierarchy. In the eyes of the citizen, the frontline officer is the state. The citizen may never meet a minister. The citizen may never meet a chief director. The citizen may never read a policy document. But the citizen will meet the officer at the counter, the nurse at the desk, the clerk in the office, and the security officer at the gate, the teacher in the classroom, and the district official receiving the application. If that encounter is disrespectful, the state feels disrespectful. If that encounter is hostile, the state feels hostile. We therefore cannot speak honestly about citizen experience while neglecting the people it delivers it to. Their working conditions, training, moral dignity, and accountability are central to reform. We also make the point that equity is not supplementary. A reform that improves the average experience but leaves the hardest to serve behind is not good enough. The elderly person in the village, the person with disability, the citizen without a smartphone, the woman with limited literacy, the young person without connections, these citizens must be at the center of the design, not at the margins. The research agenda is not merely a program of government, and this is where the meat is. I repeat it. The research agenda is not merely a program of government. At its deepest level, it is an invitation to renew the relationship between the citizens and the state. President John Dramani Mahama has spoken about resetting Ghana. That reset must be felt in the economy, in jobs, in infrastructure, in accountability, and in governance. But it must also be felt in the way the state speaks to the citizens. It must be felt in the speed of service, the clarity of process, the discipline of institutions, and the dignity with which people are treated. A reset that citizens cannot fail will remain incomplete. So we all need to support the president to make sure we get the reset right. Ladies and gentlemen, public service is a noble calling, but it is not an easy one. Those of us who have served at the center of government know that behind every decision are pressures that public may never see. There are long nights, difficult compromises, painful calls, moments of uncertainty, and days when the weight of office becomes very, very heavy. Last year, I had one of the most painful duties of my public life. I had to announce to the nation that colleagues and friends, men who had set out in service to Ghana, had perished in a helicopter crash on their way to an official assignment. They were not statistics. They were not names on a statement. They were people we knew, people we worked with, people whose laughter we remember, people whose commitment we had seen up close. They were serving this country, and in the course of the service, they gave everything. There are moments like that when public office stops being ceremonial. It becomes deeply human. It reminds you that service is not a slogan, it is a sacrifice. It reminds you that the fires on our decks are connected to real human beings and real families, real communities, and sometimes to the final journeys of people who believe that Ghana was worth their efforts. To the young people listening to me today, especially the children and students who may one day enter public life, I want to say this: do not let the failures you see make you cynical about service. Let them rather make you determined. Do not look at government and conclude that nothing can change. Look at it and decide that when your turn comes, something must change because you were there. Public service will test you. It will disappoint you sometimes. It will demand patience, courage, and humility. But if you keep your eyes on the people you are serving, you will remember the mother in the queue, the farmer at the office, the student waiting for a chance, the pensioner asking for dignity. Then you will never lose the reason for the work. And to those of us who currently hold responsibility, this book is not simply a contribution to literature. It is a call to rededication. Let us rededicate ourselves to the sacred vows of public service. Let us build institutions that do not intimidate the citizen, but welcome the citizen. Let us build systems that do not punish honesty, but reward it. Let us make government less distant, less confusion, less indifferent. Let us make it more human. Because in the end, the citizens will not remember every policy title. The citizens will remember how the state made them feel when they needed their help most. If this book helps one institution serve with greater dignity, it will have been worth writing. If it helps one leader measure what truly matters, it will have been worth writing. If it helps one frontline officer understand the nobility of their role, it will have been worth writing. If it helps one citizen experience the state as a partner rather than obstacle, then Prof. Hinson and myself will be very grateful. The work of resetting Ghana will not be completed in one speech, one administration, one book, or one reform cycle. But every generation must decide whether it will leave the machinery of the state as it found it, or make it more worthy of the people it exists to serve. May this book be one small step in making our public and civil service more responsive, more humane, and more excellent. May it remind us that the highest honor in government is not to be served by the people, it is to serve rather the people. Thank you, and may God bless our homeland Ghana.
Beautifully done by Nakoshi on the sax. Thank you so much. And many, many thanks to the Honorable Chief of Staff for that stirring address. Thank you so much, Honorable Julius Deborah. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for has arrived. It's my singular honor to invite our special guest of honor, Her Excellency Professor Opoku Agyeman, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, to deliver her address and formally launch Citizen Experience, a reset for superior public and civil service delivery, authored by Professor Robert Hinson and the Honorable Julius Deborah. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Please respectfully take your seats. The chairman for the occasion, Dr. Yamson, our Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Deborah, Professor Hinson, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to thank the organizers, especially our Honorable Julius Deborah and the co-author, for this kind invitation to be with all of you here today. Even as our government has asked Ghanaians to entrust us with a mandate to reset our country and its institutions, we recognize that a reset is not achieved through slogans alone. A reset may be initially defined by inspiration, but one of our first duties was to understand that daily implementation is what makes it all the difference to policy and outcomes. This book argues that the repeated experiences of citizens and institutions become the true face of Ghana's public service. Ladies and gentlemen, the authors didn't simply tell us that our public and civil service must improve. Beyond a diagnosis, they provide options for reform. The book directs us to design strategy around citizens, restructure their journey, invest in frontline officers, and measure successes by the experiences of people. This last point may be the book's most important contribution. It distinguishes between institutions' self-perception and the image that citizens have built of those institutions. As long as the government focuses primarily on the first, while our citizens judge us by the second, an important gap will remain between us, regardless of how many reform programs we launch or service charters we publish. Again, ladies and gentlemen, imagine a performance review of a public institution. Budgets are examined, attendance is discussed, projects are completed on schedule, and we celebrate. The meeting lasts about 90 minutes, assuming, of course, that it starts on time. Yet, many may not take the time to ask, what was the experience of people of this project? I've attended many meetings like you, like many of us. But ladies and gentlemen, real reform is difficult because it unsettles unfamiliar patterns and forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. However, instead of making reform undesirable or discouraging, it should remind us that meaningful change demands hard work. I congratulate the authors, Julius Deborah and Professor Hinson, on your collaboration. It is not often that practical experience at the highest levels of government is brought into close conversation with academic research. The result is a work that is intellectually grounded and focused on the realities of implementation, and that speaks to scholars of public administration and to those entrusted with the daily work of governing. Permit me now to briefly address our leaders of public and civil service who are here today. It may be those who are listening too. This book ends with a challenge. Let us reinforce that with a few practical expectations. By viewing your institutions through the eyes of the citizen, the framework outlined in this book provides an excellent starting point. I invite you to identify where your services are accessible, where they are clear, where they are fair, and just as importantly, where they are not. Honest self-assessment is the first step towards true reform. Next, let us focus on the services, those that citizens use most. Whether someone is applying for a license, for a passport, registering a business, the question should be among the following. Have we designed the process for the convenience of the institution or for the convenience of the user? Every unnecessary delay, every avoidable queue and confusing procedure comes at a cost in time, in dignity, in income, and more importantly, if not most importantly, in public trust. I want to stress the importance of our frontline public servants too. For many people, the face encountered at a service counter or the voice at the end of a telephone line is government. Let us ensure that those workers are properly recruited, trained, equipped, supported, because they shape confidence in our institutions. Finally, let us ensure that our pursuit of efficiency never comes at the expense of equity. The true measure of citizen-centered service is fairness, respect. Distinguished guests, books are launched often, and rightly so. But the true measure of a book like this is whether its ideas find their way into the daily work of government. Tomorrow morning, or in the course of the day, somewhere in Ghana, a citizen will walk into a public office. That encounter may be one of many real tests of the principles in the book we are going to study today and going forward. And I believe we'll all study them. We don't plan to do that. I commend this book to those who care about the quality of public service in our beloved Ghana. It does not claim to have all the answers, or that the work ahead is uncomplicated, but it asks difficult questions and offers practical ideas that deserve serious consideration. Again, I want to congratulate our Chief of Staff, the Honorable Julius Deborah, and Professor, I understand you are Robert, Professor Hinson, on this timely contribution to the discussion of public sector reform. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to formally launch Citizen Experience, a reset for superior public and civil service delivery. I want to thank you all for your kind attention. Consider the book duly launched. Thank you again.
So, Madam Vice President will kindly descend towards where the unveiling will take place, to be joined by the authors, Professor Hinson, Honorable Julius Deborah, our Chairman, Dr. Yumson, and the publisher, Mr. Ajari. So the moment has arrived, and our special guest of honor will unveil the book, Citizen Experience, a reset for superior public and civil service delivery, by Professor Robert E. Hinson and the Honorable Julius Deborah, Chief of Staff of the Republic of Ghana, launched today on the 8th of July 2026, to the glory of God. Hip hip. Thank you very much. Our guests may kindly take their seats. Your Excellency, Dr. Chair, Madam Vice President, Honorable Chief of Staff, Professor Hinson, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the book has now been officially launched. And now here comes the part where you become part of the story, as Madam Vice President so clearly intimated. Before we begin the auction, and now I wear a second hat, the auctioneer's hat, and this will take only 10 pleasurable minutes. Allow me to briefly explain how this auction will work, because we only have 10 minutes. Our objective today goes beyond just recovering the cost of publishing the book. The real goal today is to place this book into the hands of the people who can use it to transform public and civil service delivery across the Republic of Ghana. So our auction has 3 parts, but before that, I just want to alert you to the presence of a form like this. It's called a purchase card. And when you decide to to purchase the book, you fill in your details in duplicate. So your name, amount, your email, telephone number, and there are options: check, cash, Momo, bank transfer. You fill them in duplicate and then return them to our ushers. They will return half of the document, because it's perforated, with your books that you have bought. So I hope that's clear. Everybody has a copy of that. It came with your program. So now we begin with something very special. The first 10 personally autographed copies of this book by Professor Hinton and Honorable Deborah will go to the highest bidders. These are collector's items from today's historic launch. You look back on this day, 8th July 2026, and you say, I was here. I was there, Sam, as we used to say in secondary school. If you will not buy or don't want to buy, but you believe that your neighbor can support this author, this project, you can just gently betray them. And our ushers, they're also very well trained. They'll come by. Yeah, so we're looking for the first couple of the 10 autographed copies. GSP, he's not a police officer, he's a musician. He's going to give us some good music in the background. Yes, music helps us to sell. So we're looking for a first. I have only 8 minutes left. So if you just raise your hand on behalf. Oh, I saw a wave. Well, I thought it was a buying signal. I saw, oh, there's a hand. Okay, thank you. So we have a joint offer, 100,000 CDs. Nana Bediako and Perry Osai. Thank you very much. So that's the first one. That's the first one. It's going to be autographed. There's another hand. I like the music is working. Don't stop. Start too quick. Another 100,000 Ghana CDs. Thank you. Yeah. Beautiful. 8 to go. Don't be the 11th person. No. 8 to go. Okay. I also like it when you countermand the auctioneer. We had 200,000, but Mr. Samson Dean has given us 150,000. If you're not buying, you're clapping. Abbas Roma, 100,000 Ghana CDs. 4 down, 6 to go. 6 to go. We've earned 450,000 so far, which is great. Any more hundreds in the house? Oh, okay. Anonymously donated, but publicly acknowledged, another 100,000. 5 more of the hundreds, oh. 5 more. Any more hundreds in the house? Otherwise, I'll just gladly step it down. So maybe to 50,000. I have only 5 minutes left. Any 50s in the house? 50s in the house? Thank you. Honorable anonymously donated another 50,000 Ghana CDs. So 6 down. We have 600,000. There's a hand. There's a hand. Anonymous 100,000 CDs. So 3 more. 3 more to go. Anonymous 50,000. 2 more. 2 more. Catch my eye, oh, catch my eye. Catch my eye, 2 more. Any 50,000s in the house will be happy. Where is it? Yes, okay. All right, I can step it down to 20,000. Any 20s in the house? 20s in the house, I'll be happy to take 2 20s to finish the autographed selection. Any 20,000s in the house, we'll be happy to take them. Donated 20,000 Ghana CDs. Please, my ushers. Yes. The last of the autograph copies. Hey, there's a bidding war now. How much are you giving me? There's a 20 here. Can you beat it? Another 20. All right, 2 20s. Yes? Another 20,000. Please locate them. Please fill your forms. When you give your offer, fill your forms, both sides, and send it to the ushers. More 20s in the house. Any more? Another 20 in the house. Please don't want me to give me your number. We will clap for you and you start filling your form. Duplicate. Anonymous. Another 20,000. I have 4 minutes to go. Okay. So fill the forms as soon as you give us an offer. Fill the forms in duplicate. Let me move to the second part of my auction. Congratulations all of you who have given us. So now, this vision is bigger than what we see here today. The audience can't contain this vision. We want the book to reach as many people as possible. People working in our ministries, people working in our departments, in our agencies, public institutions, private institutions as well. So anybody who's responsible for delivering service to the public service, civil service, this is the book. And this is the reason why we're inviting visionary organizations, institutions, individuals to sponsor the books in bulk. So you may commit to buying 1,000 copies in bulk, or 500, or 250, and this is where it gets interesting, because every sponsored copy will be specially branded with your organization's identity before being delivered to the institution that you have nominated. So every sponsor will receive a personally autographed hardcover edition. After you've sponsored bulk copies for institutions, we also give you a specially autographed hardcover edition, double autographed. The retail price of this book is 250 Ghana cedis in the bookshops after today. But if you're ordering more than 500 copies, we're going to give it to you at a special rate of 150 cedis per copy. So that should be a great enough discount to make an impact. The whole idea, as Madam Vice President said, is to make the ideas spread. And the ideas can only spread if they get into as many hands as possible for more training opportunities as possible. So if your organization believes in improving service delivery in Ghana, this is a practical way to make a very lasting contribution. Who are our bulk sponsors today? Just let us know. If you're interested in sponsoring bulk copies, please fill your form even before you make the conversation public. Let us know. Our ushers will come by and take your forms. So that's what we want to do. We want to get between 10,000 and 20,000 copies of this book into the hands of people across Ghana. So it's a very ambitious, but it's very doable. So we want the book to be read, to be quoted, and to be practicalized in training. And so that's what we are doing today. And we want to have as many of the books go forward as possible. If you're interested in still giving us the individual donations, we're happy to take them. If you're interested in bulk donations as well, please let us know. We can give them to you 1,000 copies, 500 copies, 250 copies at the depressed price of 150 instead of the 250 that you would find the books in the bookshops. I hope we are clear on that. I have 2 minutes to go. So if you have any bulk offers, please let us know. If you still want to give us the 100s, the 50s, the 20s, we've expanded the autograph window, so more than 10 can be autographed this morning. So please feel free to support us. But for those of you who have already given us and committed, put your money where your mouth is. I think we all deserve to give you a big round of applause. Let's appreciate all of them. So thank you so much. Remember, the forms are supposed to be filled in duplicate. You hand them over to our ushers and they'll return with your copies of the books. So as the sales are going on, I want to bring the first part of today's event to a close. We'll be having, after the departure of our guest of honor and one of our co-authors, the Chief of Staff, we'll be having a panel discussion centered around the citizen experience. You do not want to miss it at all. So that will be happening momentarily. But at this point, I'd like to ask you to kindly be on your feet as we sing the national anthem and prepare for the departure of the Vice President and the Chief of Staff.
It's
you, ladies and gentlemen. We've come to the end of the first part of today's program. And we'd like to thank our special guest of honor for gracing us with her presence here. We thank all of you for being part of today's program. And our Madam Vice President will now take leave of us, along with Honorable Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah. We thank you so much. The book has been duly launched, but the event is not over. We have a panel discussion, very insightful, invigorating. It starts immediately. Our VIPs have departed this room. So kindly remain with us for the second part of today's event. Nakoshi will entertain us with beautiful sax music while we set up the stage for the panel that I will be moderating with our distinguished guests who will be taking us through insights from this particular book.
Hello, Africa. Thank you so much for watching this riveting episode of Titans and Trailblazers. As for this message, it's the gospel that will change the continent. We need to treat our citizens better. And the book makes clear prescriptions on what we need to change. Please, don't go and buy a copy. Buy thousands so that we can share them, we can discuss the issues, we can take the concept, we can implement them. They will get a better citizen-centric Ghana. Thank you, Ghana. Thank you, Botswana. Thank you, the Gambia. Thank you, Africa. We are out. Bye.
Welcome to Go Servo. We're not just another advertising technology company. We're pioneers in customer lifecycle management solutions in Africa. Our services help brands forge meaningful connections, boost sales, expand their reach, and enhance revenue streams across Africa. Here's how we make a difference. With 20 years of expertise